Oh. And after, sadly.
Right.
There used to be Mickaboo's treasurer, and then kind of retired from that.
Yeah.
Still fostering, well, not fostering, maybe so much as adopting, has adopted, and still very much a supporter of Mickaboo. Okay, 2 minutes to burn here. So for those of you who signed on early, you're being privy to the setup of a Zoom Mickaboo call. It's going to be very informal, as you can tell. It's all going to be about teals.
Do you do this for every species?
No, this is the first one.
Yeah, it's a good start. I think it's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
We're live on YouTube, everyone. Just so you know.
Wow, okay.
No pressure. We said it'd be super informal, and now you're live on YouTube.
And YouTube will let you edit, right? So the little chitter chatter can go away for posterity.
Well, yes and no. I mean, we can pull down the live recording if we don't want it to remain public, but generally speaking, people put their lives up in their raw original format. So hi, YouTube.
Okay.
And we could do an edited version that's shorter and kind of like the abridged summary, but people usually leave them up unless there's some awful thing.
Want to get team? We'll attempt to not have any awful things happen. And there's Kath. I don't see your.
Oh, hi, Kath. I invited her.
I don't see.
Hello.
Your Kath, where's your cockatiel, Kath? And that's Dad, but leave a message.
Hi, Kath.
Hi there. How's everybody?
Everybody's
Doing good. Yeah.
Hi.
okay. It is 6 o'clock, so to the extent that there's any kind of formality here, let me kick off the meeting, as it were. So welcome, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Maybe I'll take the microphone here and get it closer.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, okay then. Welcome everybody to Tiel Talk. This is a 30-minute presentation about what makes cockatiels so very, very special.
On the TV, yeah.
It is a presentation of Mickaboo Companion Bird Rescue. We are the largest bird rescue within Northern California. I'm glad to see so many of our supporters here. And I've am putting in a shameless plug at this time for donations to help us with our 470 or so birds in our rescue flock, including many cockatiels. So I've thrown a link into the chat in case anybody wants to use that. I am very pleased to be able to I am honored to introduce our panelists today, and these are the important members of our cockatiel specialist team. So I'm going to ask each of them in alphabetical order, just because, to just, raise their hands. You can see them amongst all the windows. Tell us about how long you've been volunteering with Mickaboo, approximately, and how many cockatiels you have in your house at the moment. So let's start with Katie, or Kate, excuse me. We have a different Katie. Yeah, Kate, go.
I started fostering in 2018, and I only have Jackie right now, who is behind me. She's a very sweet girl, Jack.
Yes, she is. She ought to get adopted really, really fast. Okay, and then Martha.
I've been fostering with Mickaboo since 2007, so 16 years, and currently have 6 foster cockatiels and 8 zebra finches.
Yeah, they don't count so much today. We will tell them that. Okay, and last but not least, in terms of our cockatiel specialist team, Valerie.
I've been with Mickaboo for about 3 years, and I'm a foster fail ×3, 2 cockatiels and an African gray. And my first bird was Peekaboo, and she's a cockatiel, very sweet. They all are.
They are, yeah.
Talking about you.
Okay, so in terms of rules of engagement, if you'd like to ask questions as we roll along or contribute to the conversation in some way, to avoid it becoming a free-for-all, we're going to ask that you throw either a hand up in the air using the Zoom reactions or potentially throw something into chat. I will try to keep half an eye on chat to make sure that we answer all of the questions that arrive there. And we're going to keep this informal. And because we do have an internet celebrity in our midst, I'm going to take the conversation over to Forrest for half a second and his parent, as we call, parrot parents. Conflate the two words there together. So Heather, hi there. Thank you for bringing Forrest to this particular little conversation here.
You're welcome. He's
Yeah.
happy to be here.
Yes, and you've got another cockatiel friend up there enjoying the balcony view.
That's Penelope. That was, we got her hoping Forrest might make a bond like he did with Peanut, who was the female teal I had that he fell in love with when I first adopted him. But they're not in love, but they tolerate each other.
Okay, they're acquaintances. Yeah. Okay. So Forrest is an adopted bird, adopted from Mickaboo. Can you tell us a little bit about Forrest's origin story and how you found Forrest and how he's been doing since?
Yeah. So back in 2007, when I was entering data for Mickaboo, I saw when he came in and Martha was fostering him, and I just fell in love with his picture because he was so cute. And I had all female teals at the time, so I couldn't adopt him, but I always had my eye on him. And when I was able to get a male, I called Martha and Forrest was available. So I snagged him, and he was rescued by you guys. He had been confiscated by an animal control, I believe in San Jose. I'm not positive. He was living in a car with a lot of other parrots of various sizes, including, I believe, an Amazon, a macaw, other cockatiels, I think. He was listed in the shelter paperwork as just vulture because of his beak injury. So the upper part of his beak was, we think, bitten off by one of those larger birds. When I spoke to my avian vet, she said that type of injury, it didn't look like anything that could have been congenital. So she felt certain that it was an injury. So that upper part of his beak doesn't grow. I think it was just the bite was beyond the part where it allows the beak to keep growing. And I've talked to vets about getting him a 3D, prosthetic beak. And just recently revisited that with a vet, and they feel that it's not necessary, that it would be purely cosmetic, that it could introduce other problems, that he eats and grooms fine right now. And so don't mess with it. It might make it difficult after all these years of, who knows how long he had a normal beak, and then having to readjust to this beak and then giving him another beak to adjust to. So he's also missing part of a toe on his left foot. We think that was probably also from a bird in the car. And he had an unfixed wing break that we found on X-ray. So he can't fly. So that makes it sort of difficult. We have to, keep everything in the cage really low, keep the flooring padded, in case he stumbles. So I just have had to modify, and these guys have had to modify with him because I don't, everyone gets out on the floor. They can't get out on counters. But he's a happy little guy, super energetic. He's only 70 grams.
Small.
Yeah, but he's been that way forever.
Mhm.
He eats a lot, but he just doesn't get any bigger. He's just a little guy.
So he is someone that, given everything you've described, might be classified as one of Mickaboo's special needs birds. But you're saying that it hasn't affected his quality of life necessarily,
No.
and or the quality of his interaction with you. So people shouldn't necessarily be scared of special needs birds just because of the label.
Yeah, and just because he can't fly, there's lots of ways to let them out safely. For a while after he had a seizure a couple of years ago, and so we were particularly worried about falls in the middle of the night or something. So for a while, he slept in a little plastic tank that I put something in the cage that I could mount the tank into at night, so he could still be in the cage with his friends, but safe in the tank. But it's been 2 years since then. I've gotten the all clear that we can stop. He's actually been having injections every 2 weeks for the seizures, but he's never had another one. So we're about to stop that treatment.
Okay. And I would imagine that his normal, or a cockatiel's normal diet might have had to be somewhat modified to accommodate his beak. So what is he?
Yeah, just a little. He loves vegetables. He loves carrot tops and arugula and cilantro. And he eats those with no problem. He eats the Avian, the nutrient cakes really well. And the vet confirmed that when I've had him boarded. They said he eats like a champ, no problem. With the Harrison's pellets that he does like, I crush them a little because he can't really bite them. He tends to swallow them whole, and that makes me nervous.
Yeah.
But that's it. I mean, he has a great appetite.
And it sounds like he eats all the normal type stuff, except for the size difference on the head.
Yeah, when I chop up carrots or something, I'll make sure they're very tiny, just for his benefit. But he has no trouble really eating the normal stuff.
Okay, well, that's great. Does anybody have a very specific question for Forrest or his guardian before we kind of go back to a more general conversation about cockatiels? I'm going to watch chat, look for raised hands.
We love you, Forrest.
Yeah.
And he does say "I love you" on occasion.
Oh, wow.
I think Martha taught him that.
Aw.
Nice. Okay, so let's go back to our more general conversation there, and we'll kind of start from the basics. So going to our panelists here, first question is, where do cockatiels come from? So Martha, would you like to answer that one?
They come from Australia.
Okay.
And I'm going to jump ahead to another question that I
Yeah.
know in there, that I point that out to people all the time, that it makes a difference in what kinds of foods they're more interested in. Not to say that I've seen cockatiels eat apples and I've seen them eat fruit, but they seem to like things that are less wet. They're used to greens. They're used to foraging on the ground for seeds. That's their natural life in Australia, where it's quite dry. So those are the kinds of things that I look at when I'm looking at what does a cockatiel want. So, because I remember when I first started fostering and I was looking at all the parrot books, and they all seem to be kind of focused on like Amazons and macaws and these bigger birds that eat fruit and eat these other things. And cockatiels are different that way. They do eat seed and slightly drier food.
So I'm going to ask the next question of Kate. And because they do eat seed, and in the wild in Australia, when the rainy season comes and there's just a bunch of seed around, the birds get hormonal, right? So we use that term every now and again, but I know not everybody necessarily knows what that term hormonal means. So, Kate, can you put into layman's terms what, hormonal means, and is that good? Is that bad for a cockatiel? And if it's bad, what do we do about that?
I think for our purposes, it's usually not ideal. They tend to be a little bit more, not aggressive, but a little bit more opinionated when they're hormonal. If they're females, they can lay eggs, which can deplete their vitamins, which isn't great. They also tend to want to get into things a little bit more. Like if they see a hole, they'll go investigate. So just behavior wise and vitamin wise, it's not great for them. Another thing about being an Australian bird with the hormones is that if they're around running water all the time, I've heard that that can trigger hormones, because it's also like the rainy season in Australia when they're mating. And also they're a little bit more dusty than other birds because they don't have access to water all the time. So they absorb their own oils with the dust. So being Australian does make a difference compared to other jungle type birds that have more water and more continuous food source probably.
Yep. And then because of the season, the days are longer as well, and that helps trigger the hormonal cycle. So maybe I'll ask this of Valerie then. So what does a person do, in a pet owning environment? What does a person do to try to suppress those hormonal urges?
Well, first of all, you want to limit the number of hours that they're awake. So birds need at least 12 hours of uninterrupted sleep a night in a dark room or covered with no interruptions. So that helps. They get a lot of sleep, and that helps with the hormones. It's also good to birds love to chew on things, but some birds, when they're hormonal, they're just chewing through everything and trying to create little nests and that sort of thing. So you might want to watch for that. My birds the other day flew onto my couch and started going under the little pillows there. And at first it was kind of cute, and then I realized, no, that's hormonal. So I had them get off. And food's another thing, not just with cockatiels, but with other birds. You want to limit the fats. I'm thinking of an African gray who was very hormonal, but getting all kinds of fatty nuts. And I told his owner, eliminate that, get the fat out of the diet, because they feel then that they're on the top of the world. They can have any mate they want. Nobody's going to starve. So you don't want them to starve, but you don't want them to be overfed and fed with things that aren't going to be good, that will increase their hormones.
And I've also heard that if one is in the habit of giving them warm, mushy food, that maybe one should not do that during the hormonal season, as it were, because that looks like, sounds like, tastes like, regurgitated food from a potential mate.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the appealing things about a cockatiel is its crest, this kind of thing, which, Forrest might demonstrate here for us. Yeah, so there we go. There's a crest. Okay. So what can a crest tell us? So Martha, maybe you can take that question. What's a crest tell us?
Oh, it's their way of communicating how they feel, and it's all part of their body language. It's something that you need to know with any kind of bird. You need to be able to read what they're telling you, and the crest being up can be that they're interested, they're excited. They usually, when they have it really slicked down, they're more kind of scared, or they could be relaxed. It's but that having it up, it's very fun to see them like just kind of go up and down as they're looking at something. And anybody else want to, and Forrest has got this amazing tilted windblown crest.
We like to say in another life he was a sea captain, and it's from all the wind at sea.
Yes.
So when it's like
and they do-
that, yeah,
and they
would you
do
say
vary,
he's
yeah.
very kind of alert, what's going on? This isn't normal.
Right. Why am I here? Right.
The meaning of my existence. Yeah, that kind of idea.
They vary quite a bit too from bird to bird. Some will have like just really incredibly bushy crests, and some will have like, 3 feathers. It's just, just kind of depends on the bird.
Mhm. Okay. And then I also, speaking of bird body language, let's talk about Heartwings. Who, Valerie or Kate can describe, what Heartwings means and what does it mean from a body language perspective?
Well, it's really beautiful because they'll bring their wings up and they actually look like a heart shape. And it's love. It's just love. I don't know how else to say it.
Fair enough. Kate, do you want to chime in on that? Anything extra there?
I had actually never heard that term before, but as soon as you said it, I knew exactly what they were.
Yeah.
Very descriptive. Yeah.
They're they're kind of saying, I want to be with you. I'm, and they're usually whistling at the same time when they're doing it, and kind of, sort of like wooing you. It is love.
Our favorite toys too. Some of them sing to their toys and they do their wings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Exactly.
and I see Kathy's got her hand up there. Sarah, can we let Kathy join the conversation for half a second?
Yes, we can.
Okay, Kathy, if you want to unmute yourself, you should be able to do that and ask your question or comment. Or
That
maybe-
was an accident. I was kind of talking to Timo.
No worries there.
We're talking about Kathy
Araujo.
Araujo.
Yeah, but
Oh.
she was saying that was an accident. Cynthia?
No, that was Kath Nielsen. We have more than one Kath. We have a Kathy and a Kath.
Yes, Kathy has her hand raised.
I have asked Kathy to unmute, but she's not unmuting, so we might
Okay.
need to go to someone else and come back. to
Let's
Kathy.
try Cynthia. Cynthia, what do you have for us?
Well, my teals, everybody can hear me.
Yes.
I don't have them on my shoulder right now, unfortunately, but they do a couple fun things. One I call Batbird, where they hang from their feet and, as low as they can, kind of upside down and open their wings. They look like either vultures or bats. I call it Batbird.
Mhm.
Do you guys have that happen?
I've had some that do it, and it's really good, especially for birds who can't get out of the cage or cannot fly, because then they'll flap their wings and, get some exercise that way. So yeah, I've seen it too.
Yeah, it's kind of I don't think it's necessarily aggressive or territorial. It's just, they look like they're having fun doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, and I see a comment here from Amy that Heartwings might be a male only thing. Has anybody here seen females do a Heartwing?
Yeah, my girls do.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
both of them. Yeah.
Huh.
Mhm.
Huh.
And they're pearl, so you know that they're female, right?
So let's talk about color mutations.
Oh, good
Because
segue.
there are a lot of different colors. So who can tell me what Forrest is, and then kind of go from there?
Forrest is a normal gray.
Okay, and in layman's terms, that means
Well, I'm probably not the best person to answer. I just have my understanding. I'm sure Martha
Go
or
for
someone
it.
on the team
Go for
knows
it.
more.
yeah, no, go.
So the standard color, I think, is this kind of, medium gray to dark gray. He has, the white trim on his feathers. I'm not sure if that's typical of the normal gray.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. A normal gray a male would be this gray. He's very typical.
Okay.
And now that you've turned him, he's showing his other side.
Yeah.
You can see that the male would also have the yellow mask and the red cheeks. A
Mhm.
normal female would not have that mask. They would still have they would have everything else, but they wouldn't have the yellow on them. And we don't see very many of those, as it turns out. And so these are the ones that you'd see in the wild. I mean, that's why they call it normal grays. This is what you'd see mostly in Australia if you saw flocks and flocks of birds. You get the color mutations by inbreeding, like people do with, dogs and cats and stuff, to get.
Like the yellow one here. So what's that
Yes.
one?
That's Lutino.
Okay.
And that's, you can see it doesn't have any gray on it. So they've, bred it to have just this color. And my experience has been that they tend to have more health problems and be a little more neurotic, but maybe that's just me.
Well, she actually
Is out of here.
she's only about a year old, and she already had a bout of AGY.
Oh, avian
Gastric
gastric yeast,
yeah.
which is more common in young birds. So that's kind of not unusual. You'd be more unusual to see it in older birds, but yeah. And that, yeah. Anyway, that was, so when you see all the different kinds of color mutations, all the different, you can still tell it's a cockatiel because they have that crest. It's the same size and tail and everything, but the different markings, the different colors are a result of breeding to get certain genes to express themselves.
Yeah, and I see Sarah actually has a very nice virtual background where there might be some other color mutations we can point out if we can get Sarah to show herself a little bit so it's not an eye test. There we
Oh,
go.
nice.
Okay, so Martha, you started on this. So there's a bunch of normal grays, right? And then there's some that might be cinnamons.
Right. When they have kind of a grayish, brownish wash to them, that is cinnamon. You can see some that are like yellow and gray. They've got more yellow on their body and gray, and those are pied. Down in the bottom right corner is a whiteface or silver face. There's lots of different, there you go. There's lots of different sub, categories. And basically I go with like whiteface, the normal gray, Lutino and pied, and pearl. Usually birds, cockatiels, when they're born, when they get their feathers first, before their first molt, they'll have pearls or little white dots on their feathers. And the males will molt those out and just grow out solid feathers, and the females don't. They keep their pearl on their tail feathers.
Yeah, I don't know that we've got any pearls in this array.
We don't.
Well,
no.
one just pooped
Well,
on
maybe at the
my
top.
computer screen.
Yeah.
Well, maybe is that pearl?
Martha, do any other parrots have a
Where are
crest
you,
besides the
Peekaboo?
cockatoo?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Do any other parrots besides the cockatiel and cockatoo have crests?
Not that I can think of. No.
Flycatchers,
birds.
but they're
Oh,
not
well, I mean,
parrots.
No parrots. I mean, cardinals.
Yeah.
Do, but and can use them also, I think, as
I guess the hogheads can raise their whole
Well, so yeah, like cockatoos.
or they have it all go.
yeah,
Yes.
they can flare up their whole mask, but that's a little different than a crest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone is asking, what is AGY? And maybe
Oh.
maybe it's worth talking, because it is something that people with cockatiels, it's worth them knowing about. Maybe it's worth answering that.
It's avian gastric yeast, yeast that can, as I said, can affect mostly young birds, that they can get from when there's lots of them, generally bad breeding situations, bad, overcrowding. But as I said, what I've been told is that you tend to see it more in younger birds. The older ones don't get it, or you're not likely to find it in them. So
Is that because they've built up the antibodies, kind of like human kids? When we go playground, we get everything that's
Right.
running around. And
let your kids eat dirt. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's just as you get older, you can just fend these things off. So
So just one more thing on the color mutations. How do you tell the guys from the gals?
That can be hard with some of them. With the normal gray, you can tell because, as I said, the female doesn't have the yellow mask. Once you get up to like Lutinos and some of the pieds, like the Lutinos, I found, somebody told me, a vet tech said, the orange patches are much brighter in the males. It's like, but then you have to have a female to compare it to. So, and then so sometimes you can't tell, and you have to go by, you can do DNA testing, or you can just check, you can base it on their behavior. You know, are they doing the Heartwings? Are they doing singing? Are they, you know, how are they acting? That's how we tend to determine gender. And, you know, if they lay an egg, then, you know.
Indeed. So vocalizations, maybe Kate can take this one. So males and females, how do their vocal abilities differ?
Males definitely whistle a little bit more. The females can still whistle, but in my experience, they're just a little bit quieter. Jackie behind me is female, and she doesn't whistle, but she does yell fairly loudly. So it's not like the females are necessarily always quiet, but they don't have quite the musical quality of their whistle. I've only had 2 females though, so I don't have a lot of experience with them.
And it's sometimes said that females can't imitate the English language, but I will tell you that I have had a female that used to ask, you know, what did you do? So they can, but they are very rare for sure. There's exceptions to, you know, almost any rule. Okay. So what's the general temperament of a cockatiel? You know, are they boisterous like a budgie? Are they flighty like a finch? You know, what's it like to have a cockatiel? Anyone?
It's fun. You do need to, if you have several of them, you should be very careful about your air quality just because of the dust that they can produce. It's just something that's natural for them. But they tend to be, for the most part, be pretty sweet and actually kind of timid. They, you know, I've had them be afraid of budgies that I was fostering at the same time. You know, they're just, they're used to being in flocks. They're used to having that kind of safety. But, you know, they don't, when they bite, they don't bite hard unless they're just really scared. And that's how you know, that they're very, very scared. They'll bite really, really hard.
Yeah, my cockatiels are really loving and gentle. But they do have night frights, and that's something that is, well, I don't know, other birds may have it, but it's very prevalent in cockatiels. And it's like a startle reflex in a baby, but they just suddenly start flapping and flying around. And Puffin, my second cockatiel, she actually broke a feather. She had a blood feather by beating her wings against the cage. So you just want to, when that happens, you want to get to them very quickly. And it's usually at night, and just calm them down. Don't try to handle them. Just sit and talk. And I found that works best. And if a bird does have a blood feather and it's bleeding, to grab whatever you have close, flour or
Cornstarch.
Cornstarch. You can use that cryptic stuff, but you just want to stop the bleeding.
Yeah. We've got 2 questions here. Let's take Cynthia first. What can we do for you, Cynthia?
Well, I was going to talk about the night frights. Sometimes when the girls, that wakes me up when they have them and they're bashing around the cage, and I'll go in and turn on the lights, they're covered. And I'll immediately look and see if there's been an earthquake, because that will set them off.
Yep.
And the amusing thing that sets them off is if they're molting and one of the big feathers, like a wing feather or tail feather starts to come out. And I guess it's moving around and it pokes them in the hiney or something, the end of the feather.
Yeah.
And they'll startle, and I'll know because I look on the cage floor and that's all it is just a molted long feather. And they're really weird about the feathers. I'll show them the feather and they're terrified of their own feathers. What is that all about?
Yeah, that they're pretty timid.
They're made of feathers. Hello. Anyway.
Cockatiels are terrified of everything.
Right.
No, they're not terrified, but they act like, whoa, get that away from me. Really?
They're suspicious.
Yes.
I see a question from Kathy Araujo, probably mangling the name here. Why does my cockatiel eat his own poop? I've not had that, not had one of mine do that. Anybody here care to address that one?
Mine have definitely done that on occasion, and all I can ever assume and all I've ever been able to find is that sometimes there could be nutrients or something in there that they're missing. I don't know why they would be in there, but mine still, all of mine have always done it on occasion.
I've found that sometimes they're not actually eating it, they're just nibbling on it, and just because they're just bored. So I'm very, very strict about cleaning the bottom of the cage, like really scraping everything off, because it makes me crazy when I see them do that. But
They do like crunchy things.
Crunchy, crunchy poop. Yeah. But it is possible that, I mean, if you see them do it, it could be worth taking them to the vet once just to see that they, that they're okay. But otherwise, I mean, dogs eat it too, do it too. So
I like the Lefebvre answer. And yes, I Googled.
Yes.
They say that we don't really know why some birds and mammals eat their own poop. It's not limited to parrots. There are different theories: nutritional deficiency, boredom, instinct to keep a nest or den clean and safer. But there's no known benefit for parrots to do it.
Yeah.
So, maybe it's time to rotate their toys and obviously keep things as clean as you can, although it's hard to keep up with.
Right.
Microfiber cloths.
Yeah.
We have another question. How do you teach a cockatiel to eat veggies and fruits? We just, talked about at the top of this meeting where it's not necessarily as prevalent in their native environment as other bird species, but assuming that veggies and fruit are a good thing, and yes, they are, for our cockatiel friends, how do you get them there? Kate?
Providing a variety, because sometimes they're more interested in other things than, I don't know. Jackie has so far only nibbled arugula, but she's not interested in anything else. And providing things in different formats too. Some birds like big leaves hanging, some like them sitting down. Sometimes if you get them wet, they'll be more interested in like licking the water droplets off and then nibbling. And try chopped up or big leaves. I've found that a lot of birds are afraid of things when I put them in their cage at first. And if I put like a whole head of romaine in a cup of water in the cage, it can stay in there for a few days and then they get used to it. And eventually they're curious and sort of treat it like a toy. So I think not giving up and just thinking, oh, they just don't like veggies. Just be patient. They'll like something eventually. And it might just take a while and a lot of experimenting.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, and there's also these stainless steel skewers that you can get where you can spear, a bunch of leaves or fruit slices together, and that might be yet another presentation to
You can sprinkle seeds onto wet veggies as well, and then they'll go for the millet and then maybe start experimenting whilst they're down there.
Mm-hmm.
They're ground feeders, right? In the wild.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like a saucer, a flat saucer in the bottom of the cage that they can go down and kind of forage in might work.
Yeah. And
And
Maggie.
I've heard also that they'll be interested in what you're eating as well. And if you act like you really like it, then they're more interested.
I was just going to say that too, that I had left that off, that I always go,
Yeah.
then offer it to them and then do it again. And I try to make really loud eating noises because they somehow seem to get that.
Well, that kind of makes sense, right? Because when they're in those flocks, one of the things that they're constantly doing is checking out, okay, I saw that bird eat that thing. Did they die? No. Okay, go.
And that's something that we sort of a plus of adopting birds for Mickaboo is that, if your bird doesn't eat certain things, generally speaking, the birds that have been fostered with Mickaboo have gotten onto good diets and eat a variety of things. And so your bird is more likely to eat something that when they see, a new bird eating it and as Pam said, not dying. Yeah. And you could also put it in front of a mirror,
Yeah, that other bird is eating it. Or trying to eat it.
Hey, sweetie.
Yeah.
Forrest,
All right.
Forrest likes to eat my fingers.
It puts the vegetables on there.
Indeed, yeah. Or maybe he's trying to groom you. Who knows?
Maybe.
Cleaning up your cuticles.
Yep.
Hey, Kathy, I saw that you managed to unmute, and I know you had your hand raised a while back in our conversation. Was there something you wanted to bring up in the discussion? Maybe not. Not right now.
Maybe not. Okay.
That's okay.
Well,
I have a
maybe-
question.
Yes, go for it.
So one of the birds I recently adopted from Mickaboo, Kensington, male, and on occasion he will start regurgitating. He'll bop his head on the rope perch or, a flat perch. And I read, a little bit about it. I've never had a bird do that and was a little concerned, but it seems to, at least according to what I read, can be just a normal occasional thing for a male, even though he and the female aren't mated.
He's just doing it to an inanimate object. 'Cause I've
Yeah.
seen.
So he'll regurgitate some
Yeah.
food and then eat it himself.
Oh, huh. He's part cow.
I've seen
And so
birds
I
do
did
that.
read that sometimes they'll regurgitate up a seed that wasn't, they didn't finish or something.
I've seen that. I've seen them do that when they're a little bit hormonal, but not necessarily for another bird.
Okay.
I don't know if I've seen it in a cockatiel, but I've definitely seen other species doing it. And I keep an eye on it. I mean, they might be hormonal, they might be adjusting their crop. If it started doing it super frequently, then I might pay more attention, but
Okay.
not necessarily worrying, but definitely something to.
I mean,
Sure.
he's actually he and Forrest are kind of in love, but
Nice.
not like they sing to each other. They do the Heartwings to each other.
Oh, they're happy.
But there's beyond that, there hasn't been anything.
That's okay too. Ah, baby. Yeah. Okay. Other burning questions before we wrap this up? We are at 6:41 and I did promise this would be a 30-minute informal affair.
Just check in the chat. Good luck with broccolini. Well, that's a good tip.
Yeah, broccolini.
Broccolini's popular with cockatiels. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks again, everybody, for attending this, and thanks for our panelists, Martha, Kate, Valerie, and Forrest, for coming. Yay, yeah, hi, bouncy boy. Yes, exactly. And if you'd like to support the work of Mickaboo Companion Bird Rescue, again, shameless plug, I am going to throw that donation link back into chat. We can always use your help with our vet bills, $50K a month, generally speaking. And Sarah, what can you say about posting this to our YouTube for future reference? Is it already going to be there once we sign off, or?
Yeah, the moment that we wrap up, it should be in our YouTube channel as a finished live video. And we will get some edits of it up on Facebook and Instagram and all the usual places once we clean it up a bit.
And if there's any follow-up questions, if it's of a general nature, feel free to email mail@mickaboo.org. if there is a particular question around cockatiels, and okay, so Kath has a cockatiel there, does not look like a normal gray per se, has a lot of blue and white. So what would you call that, Martha?
He's not normal. He's very special.
Yes.
Oh,
This is Timo.
Hi, Timo.
He came from Sarah's.
he looks a little, he's a little pied. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's pied.
Okay. So
Yeah.
he's a pie, might be a blueberry pie.
Mm.
And if it's a very specific question for cockatiels, then you can email coordinator-cockatiel@mickaboo.org. So again, those emails were mail@mickaboo.org for general questions like how do I adopt a bird? Or coordinator-cockatiel@mickaboo.org. Okay, well, thank you again, everybody, for your participation. Hope you enjoyed yourself and maybe
Yeah,
learned.
yeah, one quick question. Are you guys, is Mickaboo participating in the Global Giving July bonus?
We are, in
Okay.
fact, that day, July 12, is two things. We are not only participating in that one-day matching event that's geared for donations of $100 and above, and if it's $100 above, it can be matched 30 to 50%. We are also launching our summer auction on the same day. It's going to be a busy day. Woo, yes, and I'm taking the day off of work to manage it all. This kind of thing. And the auction will end on the 16th, when we will have a watch party around it. And for those of us who like looking at calendars, I'm going to throw into chat, excuse me, our calendar of events, which at this point does not include the Global Giving event on July 12th, but it will. So thank you, Heather, for reminding me about that.
Yeah.
Other comments before we sign off? Going once.
Thanks for joining, everyone.
I'd like to make a quick comment. Thank you for this. And also, I know I've typed it on comments on Instagram and Facebook, but I don't know who, I don't know if it's just Sarah doing all the new videos and things online, but I think it's really pretty spectacular and it really ups the Mickaboo game. And I think it's fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah, that is
Totally
Sarah,
agree.
Sarah, and Sarah. So, kudos for Sarah on that extra work for sure.
Yeah, it looks great.
Thank you. My phone is full of bird videos, so I figured we might as well post them on the
Yeah.
internet. Keep them coming. If you have a video of, and it can literally be 5 seconds, 10 seconds. If you have a cute little video of a bird you've adopted or that you're fostering for us, and you'd like to contribute it to be part of our internet updates, then you can post it on Slack, or you can text it to me. You can email it to mail@mickaboo.org. We'll take it any which way you want to send it. And we'll post it up as a reel. Yeah,
And they too might get to be famous like Forrest.
yeah, that's how it starts. We
mean-
have a little ways to go to catch up with Forrest, though. He's up in the higher echelons of internet stardom.
Indeed. Yep. Okay, other comments? And yes, that is the magical disappearing cockatiel behind
Yeah.
Martha.
Fancy trick.
Indeed, yeah. Going once, going twice. And thank you again, everybody, for coming, and hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Thanks, Pam.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Go
Take care.
Cockatiels!
Bye.
Yeah.
Kathleen.